The idea of secret societies and organizations ruling the world from the shadows has fascinated and alarmed people for centuries. This concept has grown into a popular theme within conspiracy theories and speculative fiction, where these secret groups are portrayed as the hidden puppeteers behind governments, economies, and even popular culture. These societies are said to manipulate global affairs, pulling strings from behind the scenes to ensure that power remains concentrated in the hands of an elite few. While many of the claims surrounding these secret organizations are speculative and lacking in verifiable evidence, the sheer secrecy and influence of some groups have sparked widespread belief in their covert power. In particular, several societies have become mainstays in these narratives, often linked to the belief in a centralized power structure that rules the world from the shadows. The Illuminati is perhaps the most famous of these secret societies. Founded in 1776 in Bavaria by Adam Weishaupt, the Illuminati was initially established as a group dedicated to promoting Enlightenment ideals such as reason, secularism, and freedom from oppressive religious and state institutions. However, in modern conspiracy theories, the Illuminati has become synonymous with the idea of a shadowy cabal that controls global events and institutions. The notion of the Illuminati is frequently tied to the concept of the New World Order, NWO, a supposed global conspiracy where a small group of elites seeks to centralize political and economic power, reducing the masses to mere pawns in their game of control. According to these theories, the Illuminati infiltrates governments, financial systems, and media, manipulating them to advance their hidden agenda. Wars, economic crashes, and even cultural shifts are often cited as examples of their influence, with the ultimate goal being the establishment of a world government under their control. Though there is no concrete evidence to support these claims, the legend of the Illuminati continues to capture imaginations, blending fact, fiction, and paranoia into a compelling narrative of unseen rulers. Another group that features prominently in these discussions is Freemasonry, a fraternal organization that dates back to the late 16th century. Freemasonry operates as a worldwide network of lodges where members participate in elaborate rituals designed to impart moral and ethical lessons. Freemasons emphasize personal development, charity, and brotherhood, but the organization's secretive nature has led many to believe that it harbors a hidden political agenda. In conspiracy circles, Freemasonry is often portrayed as a powerful force that shapes international politics and economics from behind the scenes. The organization's symbols, such as the all-seeing eye and the compass and square, are frequently cited as proof of their involvement in covert activities. Some claim that Freemasonry is intricately linked with the Illuminati, suggesting that the two groups collaborate to maintain global control. Though Freemasonry is a real organization with millions of members worldwide, conspiracy theorists often point to its influential members, such as politicians and business leaders, as evidence of its secretive influence. Skull and Bones is another society that has garnered a reputation for secrecy and power. Founded in 1832 at Yale University, Skull and Bones is an exclusive society whose members have gone on to occupy some of the highest offices in U.S. politics and business. Former U.S. presidents, senators, and Supreme Court justices are rumored to be members, and the organization is thought to act as a breeding ground for future elites. While Skull and Bones is often portrayed as a club for the rich and powerful, some believe that it plays a far more sinister role. According to conspiracy theories, Skull and Bones members wield significant influence over U.S. policy, using their connections to shape the direction of the country. Some claim that the organization's rituals and oaths bind members to a secret agenda, one that prioritizes their own interests over those of the general public. The exclusivity and secrecy of Skull and Bones have made it a popular subject for speculation, though, as with many such groups, the actual extent of its influence is uncertain. The Bilderberg Group is a real organization, though its private and secretive nature has led to widespread speculation about its true purpose. Established in 1954, the Bilderberg Group brings together political leaders, business executives, and intellectuals from Europe and North America to discuss global issues. These meetings are highly secretive, with no press coverage or public disclosure of what is discussed. This lack of transparency has fueled numerous conspiracy theories, suggesting that the Bilderberg Group is a shadow government, deciding the future of the world behind closed doors. According to these theories, participants use the meetings to coordinate global economic and political strategies, often to the detriment of ordinary people. While the group insists that the meetings are informal and meant to promote open discussions on important topics, conspiracy theorists argue that the world's elites are using these gatherings to cement their control over global affairs. The Trilateral Commission is another organization that has been linked to conspiracy theories about global domination. Founded in 1973 by David Rockefeller and Zbigniew Brzezinski, the Trilateral Commission brings together leaders from North America, Europe, and Japan to discuss economic and political cooperation. Like the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission is often accused of working toward a new world order, a one-world government that would concentrate power in the hands of the elite. Critics argue that the organization serves as a forum for influential figures to coordinate their efforts in shaping global economic policy, often without the knowledge or consent of the public. The group's emphasis on closer international cooperation is seen by some as a cover for more insidious plans to undermine national sovereignty and impose global governance. The Council on Foreign Relations, CFR, is another American think tank that has been implicated in conspiracy theories. Founded in 1921, the CFR focuses on U.S. foreign policy and international relations. Although it is a public organization, its influence over U.S. foreign policy has led some to accuse it of being part of a broader conspiracy to promote global governance. Conspiracy theorists argue that the CFR is controlled by a small group of elites who use it to direct U.S. foreign policy in ways that benefit their interests. The organization's membership includes numerous influential politicians, business leaders, and academics, which further fuels suspicions about its true purpose. The Bohemian Club, founded in 1872, and its annual retreat at Bohemian Grove have also been the subject of conspiracy theories. The Bohemian Club is an exclusive group that includes some of the most powerful men in the world. Each summer, its members gather at Bohemian Grove, a private forest in California, for a 2-week retreat. The gatherings are shrouded in secrecy, and the attendees engage in rituals that some find bizarre or occult in nature. This secrecy has led to speculation that the Bohemian Club is a front for an elite group that makes high-level political and economic decisions behind closed doors. Some conspiracy theorists even claim that the gatherings are used to perform occult rituals designed to bind members to a secret agenda. The Rothschild family, a European banking dynasty, has long been a focus of conspiracy theories. The family rose to prominence in the 18th century, and its wealth and influence have made it a target for those who believe in global conspiracies. Conspiracy theorists often claim that the Rothschilds control vast portions of the world's financial systems and use their wealth to manipulate global markets. Some believe that the family funds wars and political movements to maintain their control, though there is little evidence to support these claims. Other theories focus on groups such as the Committee of 300 and the Black Nobility, which are said to represent the interests of old European dynasties that still wield significant power. Though these theories are speculative, they continue to capture the imagination, fueled by the belief that the world is controlled by a small hidden elite. In the heart of 18th century Bavaria, a secret society was born under the cloak of mystery and rebellion. The year was 1776, and the world was teetering on the edge of revolutionary change. Empires were growing restless, and religious dogma held sway over much of Europe. Amid this backdrop, a young professor of law, Adam Weishaupt, grew increasingly frustrated with the control that the Catholic Church and the monarchy had over the minds and lives of the people. Weishaupt envisioned a world where reason, science, and Enlightenment ideals reigned supreme, and so, in an act that would ripple through history, he formed a secret group. This group would later come to be known as the Illuminati, a name that would eventually stir fears and imaginations in ways Weishaupt could never have foreseen. The Illuminati was not originally conceived as the omnipotent force of manipulation and control that conspiracy theories have since made it out to be. It began as a small intellectual society. Its members were scholars, thinkers, and those who sought to escape the clutches of religious and governmental oppression. They adopted the principles of the Enlightenment, advocating for a world governed by reason, secularism, and knowledge. Their goal was to challenge authority, disrupt the status quo, and liberate mankind from ignorance. But as with many secretive organizations, rumors began to swirl around their true purpose. Whispers of hidden rituals, mysterious gatherings, and shadowy figures meeting under the cover of darkness started to spread through the taverns and salons of Europe. For a time, the Illuminati's influence was subtle, working quietly within the folds of society. Members infiltrated Masonic lodges and other intellectual societies, their reach extending further than anyone could have predicted. Their meetings were held in secrecy, their communications encoded in cryptic symbols and metaphors, and their ambitions cloaked in mystery. The organization grew in numbers and strength, but so too did the rumors. What began as a group dedicated to reason soon became a target for those who feared what they could not see. By the late 18th century, stories of the Illuminati had morphed into tales of manipulation, deceit, and global domination. Some claimed they were the unseen hands behind political revolutions, others said they were in league with dark forces beyond the comprehension of the average man. Their name became synonymous with conspiracy, and they would forever be linked to the idea of hidden powers that pull the strings from behind the curtain of world affairs. In the realms of fiction, the Illuminati became something much larger than Weishaupt's original vision. They were no longer just a secret society, they were the architects of an invisible empire. As the centuries passed, the organization's legend grew. Conspiracy theorists imagine the Illuminati as an elite group of individuals who had embedded themselves in the highest echelons of power. These were not just intellectuals or revolutionaries anymore, they were the puppeteers of governments, banks, and even popular culture. According to these theories, the Illuminati's influence was so vast and their agenda so meticulously calculated that they could manipulate the course of history itself. Wars, economic collapses, political assassinations, and even cultural movements were said to be orchestrated by this elusive group. No event was too small, no decision too insignificant to escape their notice. They controlled the flow of money through the world's financial institutions, quietly dictating the policies of central banks and multinational corporations. They influenced elections, ensuring that only those who would serve their interests ascended to positions of power. And beyond mere politics and economics, they were believed to have a hand in shaping the very culture that defined society. Music, art, fashion, and entertainment all bore the fingerprints of the Illuminati, guiding the masses toward a carefully crafted future where free will was nothing more than an illusion. In this imagined world, the Illuminati's ultimate goal was the establishment of a new world order, a centralized global government where a small elite would rule over the masses with absolute power. To achieve this, they were said to employ the most sophisticated methods of manipulation, steering world events in such a way that the populace would unwittingly accept this new order. Global crises, whether economic, political, or environmental, were seen as tools to create chaos and fear, which would then be used to justify sweeping changes that furthered their agenda. The introduction of global organizations, international treaties, and even technological advancements like surveillance systems were all believed to be stepping stones toward the New World Order. In this dystopian vision, the Illuminati would remain hidden, never revealing their true power, but always watching, always controlling. Fictional accounts of the Illuminati often go even deeper into the fantastical, attributing to the group supernatural abilities or access to ancient forbidden knowledge. Some say that the Illuminati's origins are far older than Weishaupt's 1776 formation, tracing the society's lineage back to ancient Egypt or even further, to a time when a handful of individuals discovered the secret to immortality. This version of the Illuminati is said to possess occult powers, their leaders using mystical rituals and hidden energies to bend the world to their will. Secret underground chambers, where ancient relics and forbidden texts are kept under tight guard, are often depicted as places where Illuminati members commune with forces beyond the material world. These accounts are often woven with tales of dark magic and alchemical processes, where the pursuit of enlightenment is no longer about reason, but about mastering the unseen forces that govern reality. But despite these wild speculations, there remains a kernel of truth that lends the Illuminati its enduring appeal. The world is, indeed, shaped by hidden forces, though perhaps not as fantastical as those portrayed in conspiracy theories. Real-world elites do exercise power, often out of sight, manipulating systems for their benefit. International organizations, secret meetings of powerful individuals, and backroom deals are not figments of imagination, but documented facts of political and economic life. What makes the Illuminati so captivating is that it provides a simple explanation for the complex and often opaque nature of global power. Instead of trying to understand the intricacies of geopolitics, economics, and human behavior, the idea of the Illuminati offers a single, all-encompassing answer. Someone is in control, pulling the strings from the shadows. In truth, the Illuminati as a formal organization was short-lived. By the late 1780s, it had largely dissolved under pressure from the Bavarian government, which outlawed secret societies. Weishaupt himself was forced into exile, and the original goals of the Illuminati were never fully realized. However, the idea of the Illuminati has persisted, living on in the imaginations of those who see the world as a place ruled not by chance or chaos, but by design. It is this belief in hidden rulers, in secret agendas and unseen hands, that has allowed the myth of the Illuminati to thrive in the popular consciousness for over 2 centuries. In the end, the Illuminati remains an enigma, a mix of historical fact and speculative fiction. Whether they are the intellectual revolutionaries that Adam Weishaupt envisioned or the shadowy masterminds of global control as conspiracy theories suggest, their name continues to evoke a sense of mystery and intrigue. For some, the Illuminati represents the ultimate threat to personal freedom, while for others, it is simply a convenient metaphor for the real power structures that shape our world. And in a world where much remains hidden, the idea of the Illuminati endures, casting a long shadow over the halls of power, both real and imagined. Freemasonry, shrouded in mystery and ritual, traces its roots back to the late 16th century, though its origins stretch further into the mists of time than most realize. What began as a network of skilled stonemasons, master builders of cathedrals and monuments, gradually evolved into something far more enigmatic. The guilds that once constructed physical structures transitioned into a society that claimed to build something much greater. The architecture of morality, ethics, and knowledge. As the cathedrals of Europe reached ever higher, so too did the ambitions of the men who met in secret lodges. These were no longer mere craftsmen. They were scholars, intellectuals, and thinkers, bound together not just by their profession, but by a shared pursuit of wisdom and truth. And it was this pursuit, veiled in secrecy and symbolism, that would capture the imagination of both its members and its critics alike. The rituals of Freemasonry, intricate and laden with allegory, were designed to lead initiates on a journey of self-discovery and enlightenment. Every symbol, every handshake, every word spoken within the walls of the lodge held layers of meaning. The compass, the square, the trowel tools once used by stonemasons became metaphors for the moral and ethical lessons that the fraternity sought to impart. Members were expected to conduct themselves with honor, charity, and a deep sense of brotherhood. But the very secrecy that bound these men together also bred suspicion. What were they truly hiding? Why such elaborate rituals if there was nothing to conceal? These questions would give rise to centuries of speculation, with Freemasonry often cast as the invisible hand behind the great events of history. By the time Freemasonry had spread across Europe and into the New World, it had already attracted a curious blend of admirers and critics. Some saw in its ranks the greatest thinkers and leaders of the age, men like George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and Voltaire, who used their Masonic affiliations to foster ideals of liberty and enlightenment. But others whispered of darker motives. In the shadowy corners of society, it was said that the Freemasons had amassed more than just moral authority. They were believed to have their hands on the levers of political power, controlling kings, presidents, and prime ministers from behind the scenes. Governments, they said, were mere puppets, with Freemasonry as the invisible puppeteer. This belief in Freemasonry's secret influence became deeply ingrained in the public imagination, spawning conspiracy theories that ranged from the plausible to the fantastic. To many, the Masons weren't simply a fraternity bound by oaths of brotherhood, they were an ancient society plotting world domination. Their meetings, conducted in lodges closed to the outside world, were believed to be the breeding ground for conspiracies that spanned continents and centuries. Political revolutions, financial crises, even the rise and fall of entire empires were attributed to the hidden workings of Freemasonry. The French Revolution, the American War of Independence, and the unification of Italy, events that shaped the modern world, were said to be the work of Masonic influence, subtly steering the course of history toward a grand design known only to its highest initiates. Within the lodges, rumors persisted of even more secretive inner circles, levels of initiation reserved for only the most trusted and powerful members. It was said that these select few were not merely philosophers and thinkers, but men who held the keys to the world's greatest secrets that could unravel the very fabric of reality. According to some, these Masons had uncovered ancient knowledge, passed down from civilizations long lost to history, knowledge that granted them the power to manipulate nature itself. Whispers of alchemy, mysticism, and forbidden rites filled the air, fueling the belief that the true goal of Freemasonry was not merely the betterment of man, but the attainment of godlike power. In these stories, Freemasonry became something more than a fraternity, it became a shadow empire. The lodge meetings were depicted as places where the fate of nations was decided over cryptic discussions, and the rituals were not just symbolic, but actual invocations of power. Some believed that the Masons could influence minds, control the elements, and even defy death itself. These tales grew more elaborate with each telling, and soon, Freemasonry was linked not just to earthly power, but to the supernatural. The idea of the Masonic temple as a place of ancient wisdom and dark rituals became a recurring theme in fiction, where Freemasons were often portrayed as gatekeepers to arcane knowledge and mystical energies. The most fantastical of these theories suggested that Freemasonry was part of a much larger and older conspiracy, one that transcended politics and human affairs altogether. According to these stories, Freemasonry was but one arm of an ancient network that had existed since the dawn of civilization. Some claim that the organization could trace its lineage back to the builders of the pyramids, the architects of Solomon's temple, or even to a pre-flood civilization that had once mastered technologies and powers far beyond our comprehension. Others whispered that the true founders of Freemasonry were not men at all, but beings from another realm, guiding humanity from the shadows for millennia. This was no longer just a fraternal order, it was a conduit to the unknown. Despite the outlandish nature of these claims, Freemasonry continued to attract members from all walks of life: politicians, artists, scientists, and philosophers, all drawn by the promise of enlightenment, fraternity, and the sense of belonging to something larger than themselves. Its influence, real or imagined, spread across the globe, with lodges established in nearly every major city. Freemasons were involved in charitable works, intellectual pursuits, and civic duties, but the public's fascination with their secrecy never waned. To some, they were beacons of reason and progress; to others, they were a shadowy cabal plotting humanity's future from smoke-filled rooms. The 19th and 20th centuries saw the rise of even more elaborate theories. Freemasonry was often linked to other secretive organizations, like the Illuminati, with claims that both were working toward a common goal: the establishment of a new world order. This new order, according to conspiracy theorists, would be a world where nation-states were dissolved and all power rested in the hands of a select few, a global elite who ruled with an iron fist, hidden behind the veil of democracy and progress. Freemasonry, they said, was the glue that held this grand conspiracy together, its members infiltrating every level of society, from local governments to international institutions, always working toward the same end. Of course, for most Masons, the reality was far less dramatic. Freemasonry remained what it had always been: a fraternity dedicated to self-improvement, moral philosophy, and charitable works. Its rituals and symbols, while esoteric, were never meant to conceal dark truths or grant supernatural powers. Yet, the allure of the unknown, combined with the very real influence that many Freemasons wielded in their respective fields, ensured that the conspiracy theories persisted. Even today, the image of Freemasonry as a shadowy, powerful organization endures, with countless books, movies, and websites dedicated to unraveling its supposed secrets. The true legacy of Freemasonry may never be fully understood, but one thing is certain: its blend of mystery, ritual, and symbolism has captured the imagination of generations. Whether seen as a force for good, a puppet master of world events, or a relic of an ancient, forgotten past, Freemasonry continues to intrigue, its secrets still locked behind the doors of its temples, whispered only among those who have passed through its ranks. And in the absence of clear answers, the myths and stories will continue to grow, casting long shadows over the halls of power, both real and imagined. Hidden deep within the storied halls of Yale University, there exists a secret society, cloaked in mystery and whispers, that has captured the imaginations of conspiracy theorists and scholars alike for nearly 2 centuries. The year was 1832 when Skull and Bones was founded, but its roots, as some say, may stretch much further back into history. Yale, already an elite institution, was fertile ground for cultivating powerful minds, but the select few chosen to join this enigmatic brotherhood were destined for something more than mere academic success. Their futures were marked by influence, wealth, and positions of power, and the rites of Skull and Bones were said to be the first step on that gilded path. The official story is simple enough. Skull and Bones was formed as a secret society, one of many that existed in the Ivy League world. Its founders, William Huntington Russell and Alphonso Taft, envisioned a club where the brightest and most ambitious young men could bond, their loyalty cemented through arcane rituals and an unwavering commitment to each other. But what set Skull and Bones apart from the other secret societies was the eerie sense of purpose that surrounded it. The society met in a windowless building on campus, known only as the Tomb, a place where no outsiders were allowed and where strange ceremonies unfolded under the cover of darkness. What happened within those walls has been the subject of speculation and conspiracy for generations. For those initiated into Skull and Bones, the journey was not just about academic or social success, it was about stepping into a world where power was not simply achieved, but inherited. Upon entering the society, members would take part in rituals that many described as bizarre and macabre. Some spoke of skeletons, candles, and cryptic chants, with new initiates forced to share their deepest secrets in what was known as the ordeal. It was said that these confessions, shared among brothers, ensured that no one would ever betray the society's inner workings. Bound by these confessions, members could trust one another completely, knowing that their darkest truths were held in the hands of those who shared their ambitions. But Skull and Bones was not just a fraternity of young men seeking companionship. It was a machine, carefully designed to produce leaders. Its members, referred to as Bonesmen, included some of the most influential figures in U.S. history. Presidents, senators, Supreme Court justices, and business moguls passed through the tomb, their destinies seemingly intertwined with the rituals they had undergone in their youth. The society's reach extended far beyond Yale's campus, and it was said that once a Bonesman, always a Bonesman. A secret network of alumni ensured that members were placed in positions of power, their rise to the top all but guaranteed. Some whispered that Skull and Bones was more than just a breeding ground for America's elite. It was, they claimed, a hidden government within the government, a shadowy force that shaped U.S. policy from behind the scenes. According to these theories, the Bonesmen were not simply members of a fraternity, but participants in a grand design, one that spanned generations and whose goal was nothing less than control of the world's most powerful nation. The idea was tantalizing, especially given the number of Bonesmen who had indeed ascended to the highest offices in the land. How was it that this small group, year after year, produced the men who would go on to become presidents, secretaries of state, and captains of industry? Could it all be coincidence, or was there something darker at play? In the 20th century, these suspicions reached a fever pitch. As America grew into a global superpower, so too did the legends of Skull and Bones. Presidents like William Howard Taft and George H.W. Bush, both Bonesmen, were believed to have been part of a secret cabal, orchestrating decisions that would shape not just the U.S., but the entire world. The Bush family, in particular, seemed to embody the idea of the Skull and Bones dynasty, with two presidents and multiple high-ranking officials all tied to the society. Critics pointed to the wars, the foreign interventions, the economic policies, all said to have been decided not in the halls of Congress, but within the dimly lit confines of the tomb. And yet, the true nature of Skull and Bones remained elusive. While conspiracy theorists constructed elaborate narratives about global domination, others believed the society was more of a gentleman's club, where powerful men helped other powerful men succeed. The idea of a secret network that ran the world was alluring, but for most, Skull and Bones was simply a stepping stone, a place where connections were forged and loyalties cemented. Still, the rituals, the secrecy, the symbols, these were not the trappings of an ordinary fraternity. There was something undeniably different about Skull and Bones, something that set it apart from the other societies of the Ivy League. Then there were the more outlandish claims. Some said that Skull and Bones wasn't just an elite social club, it was a cult. The society's obsession with death and its supposed possession of stolen artifacts, including the skulls of famous figures like Geronimo, gave rise to rumors that the Bonesmen practiced necromancy or other dark arts. According to these stories, the tomb was not just a place for secret meetings, but a temple where forbidden knowledge was passed down from generation to generation. There were even those who claimed that the true purpose of Skull and Bones was to unlock the secrets of immortality, using ancient rites and rituals to prolong life indefinitely. Such claims may have bordered on the fantastical, but in a world where power and secrecy collide, anything seemed possible. Throughout its history, Skull and Bones has remained remarkably tight-lipped, refusing to confirm or deny the many rumors that surround it. The society continues to induct new members every year, selecting from Yale's brightest and most promising students, but what happens inside the tomb remains unknown to outsiders. Perhaps it is this very secrecy that fuels the speculation. In a world where information is currency, a group that guards its inner workings so closely becomes a magnet for conspiracy. The Bonesmen themselves, upon leaving Yale, scatter across the country and the world, but their connections remain intact. Whether they serve as politicians, judges, or business leaders, the bond they share through Skull and Bones is said to be unbreakable. As the 21st century progresses, the allure of Skull and Bones shows no sign of fading. In an age of increasing transparency and accountability, the society's secrecy feels almost anachronistic, a relic of a bygone era when the world's most powerful figures could operate without scrutiny. And yet, the rumors persist. Some say that Skull and Bones is still pulling the strings of American power, its members guiding the nation's course from the shadows. Others suggest that the society's influence has waned, that it is no longer the powerhouse it once was. But as long as the tomb remains sealed to outsiders, as long as the rituals remain shrouded in mystery, Skull and Bones will continue to fascinate, a dark symbol of the unseen forces that may or may not shape the world around us. The truth of Skull and Bones is likely far less dramatic than the legends suggest. It is, after all, a society rooted in tradition, where bright young men are inducted into a centuries-old network of privilege and power. But in the absence of hard facts, the imagination runs wild. Perhaps that is the real power of Skull and Bones, not its ability to control governments or economies, but its ability to inspire stories of secret cabals, hidden agendas, and dark rituals. In a world where the truth is often stranger than fiction, the myth of Skull and Bones will continue to thrive, a shadowy reflection of the very real influence its members wield in the corridors of power. In the shadowy corridors of power, where the threads of global influence are woven into an intricate web, there lies a gathering known only to a select few. The Bilderberg Group. What began as a small, exclusive meeting in 1954 has since evolved into one of the most secretive and controversial gatherings of world leaders, corporate titans, and intellectual elites. The first meeting was held at the Hotel de Bilderberg in the Netherlands, a quaint location that would soon give its name to a group whose very existence would become synonymous with the notion of hidden power. That initial gathering was ostensibly designed to foster dialogue between Europe and North America, a noble enough cause in the post-World War II world. But almost immediately, the secrecy that shrouded these meetings began to raise eyebrows, and with each passing year, the whispers grew louder. Each spring, 100 or so of the world's most powerful and influential figures gather in a heavily guarded location, closed off from the prying eyes of the media and the general public. Presidents, prime ministers, CEOs of multinational corporations, royalty, and renowned scholars all sit at the same table, their discussions shielded from the scrutiny of the outside world. There are no press releases, no public statements, and no official records. The very absence of transparency only serves to fuel speculation, and in the eyes of many, the Bilderberg Group is not merely a forum for debate, but a clandestine council pulling the strings of global power. For those inclined to believe in the darker side of international politics, it is at these secret meetings that the true course of the world is charted, far from the stage of public governance. Some say that within the walls of the luxurious resorts and secluded estates where these meetings take place, the Bilderberg Group holds the keys to the future. They argue that these annual gatherings are not just intellectual salons, but covert gatherings where decisions are made that will ripple out into the world. Economic policies that determine the fates of nations, trade agreements that shift the balance of power, and even the rise and fall of political figures according to conspiracy theorists, all are plotted within the confines of the Bilderberg meetings. What happens in those rooms has consequences for millions of people, and yet those affected are left in the dark. The elite attendees, sworn to secrecy, leave each year with their knowledge intact and the world none the wiser. It is this secrecy that has given rise to some of the most elaborate and fantastical theories about the Bilderberg Group. In the murmurings of conspiracy forums and whispered conversations, the group is portrayed as a kind of shadow government, one that transcends the elected officials of individual countries and instead governs the world through quiet consensus. According to some, the group's agenda is nothing less than the creation of a new world order, an era of global governance where borders are irrelevant and the masses are ruled by an unseen, unelected elite. The world's wars, financial collapses, and political upheavals, they claim, are all carefully orchestrated at these meetings, the attendees deciding who will be sacrificed for the greater good of their master plan. Fictional tales surrounding the Bilderberg Group often take on a life of their own. Stories circulate of secret handshakes, coded language, and ancient symbols used to identify members of this global ruling class. Some believe that the group's origins stretch back much further than 1954. With ties to the ancient mysteries of the Knights Templar, or even further to hidden orders that have guided humanity for millennia. The group is said to be the successor to these ancient brotherhoods, inheritors of a secret knowledge that grants them dominion over all others. In these tales, the Bilderberg Group is more than just a conference of the powerful, it is the very engine of history, a cabal of modern-day sorcerers whose words can bring nations to their knees or elevate them to heights of glory. Perhaps the most persistent belief is that the Bilderberg Group has been planning a grand unification of world governments. The idea of a one-world government, governed by an elite few who meet in secret, has long been the stuff of speculative fiction and conspiracy theory. And for those who subscribe to this notion, the Bilderberg Group is not merely a participant in global affairs, but its architect. They point to the steady march of globalization, multinational corporations that wield more power than entire countries, international treaties that bind nations together, and financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank that seem to set the terms of economic survival as evidence that the seeds of a global government are being sown. The meetings, which typically last 3 days, are said to be fraught with intrigue. Armed guards patrol the perimeter, and all participants are whisked away from prying eyes in blacked-out vehicles. There are no name tags, no seating charts, and no one outside the group knows what happens once those heavy wooden doors swing shut. Some speculate that the group discusses not just the state of the world as it is, but how to shape it into the image they desire. Will a certain nation be allowed to rise economically this year, or will its markets be quietly suppressed? Will a new technology be embraced or quietly buried under bureaucracy and red tape? Every decision made is said to have rippling effects, impacting millions, yet always remaining hidden under the veil of normalcy. The attendees themselves often deny the more outlandish theories, brushing off claims of a shadow government or hidden agendas as paranoid fantasy. For them, Bilderberg is simply an opportunity to exchange ideas and perspectives with fellow leaders and thinkers. There's no conspiracy, they claim, just conversations about how to navigate an increasingly interconnected world. But for the theorists, this defense rings hollow. After all, why all the secrecy if there is nothing to hide? Why the insistence on privacy and the complete lack of media transparency if these meetings were as benign as they suggest? The more the Bilderberg group denies, the more certain its critics become that something nefarious is afoot. Over the decades, there have been several notable instances where decisions made at Bilderberg seem to have coincided with major global events. Critics point to the early meetings, which took place just before the European Economic Community, the precursor to the European Union, was formed. Later, key figures who attended Bilderberg conferences would go on to spearhead major political initiatives like the formation of NAFTA or key decisions during the Cold War. These coincidences lead many to believe that while the group may not directly rule the world, its influence is undeniable. The list of attendees reads like a who's who of global power. Bill Clinton, Tony Blair, Angela Merkel, Henry Kissinger, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates, to name just a few. Each of these figures has shaped the modern world in significant ways, and their presence at Bilderberg only adds fuel to the fire of speculation. Of course, the truth about the Bilderberg group may be far more mundane than the fantastical stories woven around it. Perhaps it is nothing more than what it claims to be: a gathering of powerful individuals discussing the challenges of the modern world. Perhaps the secrecy is simply a means of ensuring frank, open discussions, free from the pressures of media scrutiny. Yet, in a world where power so often operates behind closed doors, the idea that a group of elites could quietly steer global events from a secluded conference room is all too believable. And so, the legends persist. Each year, as the Bilderberg group convenes in yet another five-star hotel under heavy security, the world watches with suspicion, wondering what decisions are being made in those secretive meetings. What plots are being hatched, what alliances forged, and what fates sealed. In the absence of answers, the imagination runs wild, conjuring up images of a global ruling class whose power knows no bounds. Whether the truth is more banal or far more sinister, the Bilderberg group remains one of the most enduring symbols of hidden power, a reminder that the world's true rulers may not always be the ones we see on the public stage. In the dimly lit rooms where power and influence intersect, there is a quiet, almost imperceptible force that shapes the direction of nations. This force, known to only a select few, is the Trilateral Commission, an elite organization that has, for decades, been the subject of both reverence and suspicion. Born in 1973 from the minds of David Rockefeller and Zbigniew Brzezinski, the commission was designed as a forum for cooperation between the power centers of North America, Europe, and Japan. Its public mission seemed simple enough: to foster dialogue, promote mutual interests, and strengthen the bonds between the world's most powerful economies. But beneath this surface of diplomacy and partnership, there lurked a deeper, more enigmatic narrative that would capture the imaginations of conspiracy theorists for generations. The idea that a small, select group could hold sway over the world's largest economies was both terrifying and alluring. After all, if the leaders of the world's most powerful regions were meeting behind closed doors, what were they discussing? The answers, according to some, lay in the long-held dream of a unified world order, an era where borders and governments would dissolve under the weight of a single, centralized authority. This authority, they claimed, would not be bound by the will of the people, but rather directed by a cabal of elites whose interests transcended national concerns. In this narrative, the Trilateral Commission was not merely a discussion forum. It was the epicenter of a carefully orchestrated plan to create a new global order, one where the power of the many would be quietly transferred to the hands of the few. The creation of the Trilateral Commission occurred during a time of significant global upheaval. The Vietnam War was nearing its devastating conclusion, and the Cold War had created a world divided between ideological and economic extremes. The post-war boom that had powered Western economies was beginning to falter, and nations were becoming increasingly interdependent. It was a time when cooperation between the world's largest powers was not only advantageous, it was essential. Yet, the secrecy with which the Trilateral Commission operated invited curiosity. Its meetings, attended by heads of state, business magnates, and academic leaders, were conducted in why, if their intentions were benign, was there such a shroud of secrecy? Some claim that the answers are far darker than the Commission's founding members would have the world believe. In the minds of its critics, the Trilateral Commission was never just a diplomatic organization. It was, instead, the very apparatus through which the world's most powerful individuals would implement their grand vision of a global government. To these conspiracy theorists, the Commission's agenda was clear: to dissolve national sovereignty and subsume it under the control of an elite group of internationalists. The key to this plan, they suggested, was economic control. Through the manipulation of trade agreements, financial markets, and international regulations, the Commission could gradually shift the power dynamics of the world, creating a system in which governments were no longer accountable to their citizens, but to global institutions run by elites. In fiction, the Trilateral Commission is often portrayed as the invisible hand that moves the pieces on the global chessboard. Behind every economic crisis, every political upheaval, there is the suggestion that the Commission has, in some way, played a role. Its members, the story goes, are not just influential in their respective fields, they are the architects of the future, working quietly to ensure that the world moves in the direction they desire. This control is not exerted through overt political force, but through subtler, more insidious means. By controlling economic levers, currencies, trade agreements, technological innovation, the Commission could dictate the terms of globalization, ensuring that the wealth and power of the world would be concentrated in the hands of a small elite class. One of the most persistent beliefs surrounding the Trilateral Commission is that it serves as a breeding ground for political leaders who would, once in power, further its agenda. Critics point to numerous examples of politicians who, after attending trilateral meetings, went on to hold key positions in their respective governments, often implementing policies that aligned with the Commission's objectives. Was this mere coincidence, or was it evidence of a carefully laid plan? Those who subscribe to the latter theory argue that the Commission's influence is so pervasive that it has essentially handpicked the leaders of the free world, grooming them to further its goals of global governance and economic domination. The Commission's tripartite structure, bringing together leaders from North America, Europe, and Japan, was also seen by some as a deliberate move to control the economic engines of the world. By aligning the interests of these three powerhouses, the Trilateral Commission could effectively dictate the terms of global trade and commerce. As the world's economies became more interlinked, the influence of the Commission grew, and with it, the suspicion that this organization was not just facilitating cooperation, but was instead orchestrating a quiet coup over global affairs. The concept of economic sovereignty was, in their view, a thing of the past. Now, decisions that affected billions were being made in boardrooms, not parliaments, and the people had no say in the matter. For many, the ultimate goal of the Trilateral Commission's efforts is the creation of a one-world government. This theory, popular among conspiracy circles, suggests that the Commission has been working behind the scenes for decades to erode national identities and replace them with a single global authority. This world government would be unelected, accountable only to the elites who control it, and it would rule over a populace that had been pacified through economic dependence and technological control. The borders between countries would become irrelevant, as all nations would answer to the same centralized power. The Commission's meetings, in this narrative, are not just discussions, they are the blueprint for a future where individual freedoms are sacrificed for the sake of a controlled, unified world. The financial crises that have rocked the world over the past few decades are often pointed to as evidence of the Trilateral Commission's influence. Critics argue that these crises were not accidents of fate, but were instead deliberately engineered to weaken national governments and strengthen the hand of international financial institutions. By creating a climate of fear and uncertainty, the Commission could push for greater cooperation and integration between nations, all under the guise of solving global problems. In reality, they say, this was just another step towards the Commission's ultimate goal. A world where economic and political power is concentrated in the hands of a few, and where the masses are left powerless. There is, of course, a more mundane explanation for the Trilateral Commission's activities. Its defenders argue that the organization is nothing more than what it claims to be: a forum for dialogue and cooperation between the world's most powerful regions. In an increasingly interconnected world, they say, such cooperation is not only necessary but vital for maintaining global stability. The secrecy surrounding its meetings, they argue, is simply a way to ensure that frank discussions can take place without the interference of media sensationalism or political posturing. But for the Commission's critics, this defense rings hollow. After all, if the Commission's goals were truly transparent, why all the secrecy? Why the need for closed-door meetings and the absence of any public accountability? The truth about the Trilateral Commission likely lies somewhere between these two extremes. While it may not be the shadowy puppet master that its critics suggest, there is no denying that it wields significant influence in global affairs. Its members are some of the most powerful individuals in the world, and their decisions undoubtedly have far-reaching consequences. Whether those decisions are made in the interest of global cooperation or in pursuit of a more nefarious agenda is a question that remains unanswered. What is certain, however, is that as long as the Trilateral Commission operates in the shadows, its legacy will continue to be one of suspicion and intrigue, a symbol of the unseen forces that shape the world we live in. In the heart of New York City, tucked away in an unassuming building, lies an institution that, to the untrained eye, appears no different from the countless other think tanks and policy forums scattered throughout the world's most powerful cities. This is the Council on Foreign Relations, or CFR, a name that, to the initiated, stirs both reverence and suspicion. Founded in 1921, the Council was born in the aftermath of World War I, a time when the global order was being reshaped and the role of the United States on the world stage was being carefully recalibrated. The founders of the CFR, an elite group of bankers, lawyers, and diplomats, saw an opportunity to influence this recalibration, to guide the United States into its position as a global superpower. Yet, as decades passed, the CFR would grow into something much larger, something far more mysterious, and in the eyes of conspiracy theorists, far more dangerous. Officially, the Council on Foreign Relations is a think tank, a place where the brightest minds gather to discuss the intricacies of U.S. foreign policy and international affairs. Its membership reads like a who's who of American power presidents, secretaries of state, business moguls, military generals, and media barons. It is here that policies are debated, strategies are devised, and the future of nations is quietly shaped. But for those who view the CFR with suspicion, this is just a surface, a carefully crafted facade to conceal the Council's true purpose. According to the skeptics, the CFR is not merely an organization that studies foreign policy, it is an entity that dictates it. Behind its polished exterior, they argue, lies a cabal of elites whose ultimate goal is to steer the United States and, by extension, the world toward a system of global governance, one where national sovereignty is nothing more than an antiquated concept. The origins of the CFR are steeped in intrigue. In the wake of the First World War, as Europe lay in ruins and the world grappled with the consequences of imperial ambition, a group of American elites began to see the potential for a new world order. These men, many of whom had been part of President Woodrow Wilson's inner circle during the negotiations for the Treaty of Versailles, believed that the United States needed to play a more active role in global affairs. They feared that isolationism, the policy that had defined much of the U.S. approach to the world before the war, would lead to further instability and conflict. So, in 1921, they founded the Council on Foreign Relations, a forum where they could discuss the future of U.S. foreign policy and, more importantly, influence it. What began as a relatively small organization quickly grew in influence. The Council's meetings, held in secretive settings and attended by the most powerful figures in American politics and business, became the breeding ground for ideas that would shape U.S. foreign policy for generations. Through its prestigious journal Foreign Affairs, the CFR began to disseminate its views to the broader public, subtly shaping the discourse around America's role in the world. To its defenders, the Council was simply doing what any responsible think tank should, offering informed, intellectual analysis to guide policymakers through the complexities of international relations. But to its detractors, the CFR was something far more sinister. The nerve center of a shadow government that operated behind the scenes, manipulating events to suit its agenda. The conspiracy theories surrounding the CFR began to take shape in the mid-20th century as the world plunged into the Cold War and the stakes of global politics grew ever higher. It was during this time that critics began to accuse the Council of having a hand in some of the most significant events in modern history, events that, on the surface, appeared to be organic developments in the geopolitical landscape but were, in fact, meticulously planned by the elites who controlled the CFR. The rise of the United Nations, the creation of NATO, and even the Marshall Plan, according to these critics, were all pieces of a larger puzzle, one designed to erode the sovereignty of individual nations and centralize power in the hands of a few. In this narrative, the CFR was not merely an American think tank, it was the vanguard of a globalist agenda, working to dismantle national borders and create a new world order. What made these theories so compelling to many was the secrecy that surrounded the CFR's activities. While the council did publish its journal and host public events, its most important work was done behind closed doors. Membership in the CFR was by invitation only, and its meetings were attended by the most influential figures in American life: presidents, senators, CEOs, and media titans. What was discussed in these meetings was never made public, leading to rampant speculation about the council's true intentions. Was it merely offering policy advice, or was it dictating the course of U.S. foreign policy? And if the latter was true, who was really pulling the strings? To those who believed in the CFR's covert influence, the answers were clear. The council, they claimed, was not just shaping policy, it was controlling it. From the Vietnam War to the Gulf War, from trade agreements like NAFTA to the invasion of Iraq, the CFR was accused of being the unseen hand behind some of the most controversial decisions in modern history. Its members, critics argued, had a vested interest in maintaining a global system that benefited the elites, those who controlled multinational corporations, financial institutions, and the levers of government. In this view, the CFR was not just promoting U.S. interests abroad, it was promoting the interests of a transnational elite class, one that saw national governments as tools to be used in the pursuit of a globalist agenda. Perhaps the most persistent accusation leveled against the CFR is that it seeks to create a world government. This theory holds that the council's ultimate goal is to dissolve the concept of the nation-state, replacing it with a single, centralized authority that would govern all people. In this system, national borders would be irrelevant, and the power to make decisions would rest in the hands of a select few, an unelected, unaccountable elite that would rule over the world in perpetuity. This world government would not be a democratic institution, but rather a technocratic one, where decisions were made based on economic efficiency and the interests of the global elite, rather than the will of the people. To the proponents of this theory, the CFR's efforts to promote international cooperation and institutions like the United Nations are not benign, they are steps toward the creation of this one world government. In fiction, the Council on Foreign Relations is often portrayed as a shadowy cabal, its members sitting in darkened rooms, pulling the strings of governments and corporations alike. They are the puppet masters, orchestrating wars, economic crises, and political upheavals to suit their agenda. Every world leader, every CEO, every media mogul is, in this narrative, either a member of the CFR or beholden to its power. Even the most powerful figures in American politics, from presidents to senators, are said to be merely pawns in a game played by the elites of the council. It is a narrative that plays on the fears of a world increasingly interconnected, where the lines between government, business, and media are blurred, and where power seems to reside not in the hands of the people, but in the boardrooms of the global elite. And yet, despite all the speculation, the CFR continues to operate much as it always has. Its members gather in New York, discussing the pressing issues of the day, and its journal continues to publish articles on the complexities of international affairs. Whether the council is truly the shadow government that its critics claim, or simply a forum for intellectual debate, remains a matter of perspective. What is clear, however, is that the Council on Foreign Relations, with its aura of secrecy and its connections to the most powerful figures in the world, will continue to inspire both fascination and fear for as long as it exists. Its legacy, like that of many powerful institutions, will always be a blend of reality and myth, fact and fiction, truth and conspiracy. Deep in the heart of Northern California, amid towering redwoods and the whispers of ancient trees, lies Bohemian Grove, a place so secluded, so shrouded in mystery, that few outside its inner circle ever glimpse the rituals and gatherings that unfold within its boundaries. This is where the Bohemian Club, an exclusive group of the world's most powerful and influential men, convenes each summer. Founded in 1872 in San Francisco, the Bohemian Club began as a sanctuary for artists, journalists, and musicians' creative minds looking to escape the confines of society and share ideas in an atmosphere of camaraderie. But over the decades, the group evolved, transforming into something far more influential. What started as a haven for artistic expression became a retreat for the world's political, business, and cultural elite. And with that shift came rumors, dark, tantalizing tales of what really transpires in the Grove. Each year, when the Bohemian Club gathers for its 2-week retreat, the roads leading to Bohemian Grove are blocked off, patrolled by security forces, ensuring that no uninvited guests can approach. The only sounds that emerge from the forest during this time are the occasional murmurs of laughter, the crackling of campfires, and, sometimes, something else chants, distant and rhythmic, drifting through the trees like a secret language. To those on the outside, the secrecy that surrounds these meetings only serves to heighten suspicion. The Bohemian Club's members include presidents, military generals, media magnates, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and some of the most influential figures in global politics. What could they possibly be discussing within the Grove's shadowed confines? And more importantly, what decisions are being made in this secluded enclave that could shape the fate of the world? Legends swirl around the activities of the Bohemian Grove. One of the most pervasive is the rumor that occult rituals are performed under the cover of the redwoods. At the heart of these tales is the cremation of care, a ceremony that takes place on the first night of the retreat. In this ritual, an effigy is burned before a massive stone owl, a symbol of wisdom, they say, though others see it as something more ominous. The ritual is meant to symbolize the release of worldly worries, a way for the participants to shed the burdens of power and responsibility, if only for a short time. But to those who believe in the darker side of the Bohemian Club, the ritual is anything but symbolic. Conspiracy theorists argue that this ceremony is rooted in ancient pagan rites and that it represents something far more sinister, a secret pact among the elites, a bond forged in secrecy and ritual that grants them control over the world's political and economic systems. The notion that global leaders, men of unimaginable power, would participate in such rituals is both thrilling and terrifying. It suggests that the most important decisions affecting billions of lives are not made in the halls of government or in corporate boardrooms, but in the stillness of the forest, under the gaze of ancient symbols and secret oaths. The Bohemian Grove, they say, is not just a place for relaxation, it is where the course of nations is charted, where wars are planned, and where the future of the global economy is decided. Every major political and economic event of the 20th and 21st centuries, according to this narrative, has its roots in the Grove, discussed and approved by the men who gather there each year. There are stories of deals being struck in the quiet of the forest, conversations that would never be recorded in official minutes, alliances that would never be acknowledged publicly. Former US presidents, such as Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan, were known to have attended the retreats, and many speculate that Reagan's rise to political prominence was carefully orchestrated by the connections he made within the Bohemian Club. Similarly, the Manhattan Project, the secret US effort to develop the atomic bomb, allegedly found support and backing through discussions held in Bohemian Grove during World War II. The Grove, according to these tales, is not just a retreat, it is a place where history is shaped and power is solidified. Of course, those who defend the Bohemian Club argue that the retreat is nothing more than a place for relaxation, where powerful men can escape the pressures of their daily lives, enjoy some theatrical performances, and engage in light-hearted banter. They insist that no grand conspiracies are being plotted, no occult practices are taking place. But this very defense, to the skeptics, only adds to the mystery. After all, why would such an exclusive group go to such lengths to ensure absolute secrecy if there were nothing to hide? Why the elaborate rituals, the fire-lit ceremonies, the stone owl watching silently over the proceedings? In fiction, it's easy to imagine the Grove as a place where masks are dropped, where the true nature of power is revealed. Perhaps, beneath the veneer of civility, these gatherings are a stage for negotiations that will never see the light of day. The redwoods, ancient witnesses to countless secrets, stand as silent sentinels, keeping the mysteries of the Grove locked away from the outside world. Those who attend know that what happens here will never be spoken of again, not in public, not in private. It is as if the Grove itself absorbs their secrets, holding them in the stillness of the forest. The Bohemian Club's motto, "Weaving spiders come not here," is often cited as a sign that no business or networking should take place at the retreat, but for conspiracy theorists, this is nothing more than a clever misdirection. They argue that behind the scenes, webs are indeed being woven, intricate and far-reaching, connecting the world's most powerful individuals in a hidden network of influence. These webs, unseen by the general public, stretch across continents, pulling strings in government offices, corporate boardrooms, and media empires. Over time, the mystique of the Bohemian Grove has only grown. The Grove itself has become a character in the story, an enchanted, almost mythical place where reality blurs into fantasy. The towering redwoods seem to whisper secrets to those who walk among them, their ancient roots entwined with the history of the world's elite. And every summer, when the Grove comes alive with the flicker of firelight and the murmur of voices, the world outside waits, wondering what decisions are being made in those shadowed woods, what plans are being laid for the future. For all its secrecy, the Bohemian Grove remains a symbol of the power that operates beyond the public eye, power that is unaccountable, intangible, and, for many, deeply unsettling. It is a place where the world's most powerful men gather away from the scrutiny of the press, away from the constraints of democracy and transparency. In the darkness of the forest, illuminated only by fire and the glow of their own privilege, they are free to be their true selves, whatever that might mean. Whether the Bohemian Grove is truly the nexus of global conspiracy or merely a glorified boys' club for the rich and powerful, the myths that surround it will continue to captivate and terrify those who see in its rituals the very essence of unchecked power. The truth of what happens in the Grove may never fully be known, but that uncertainty only serves to fuel the imagination. In a world where so much is hidden from view, where the levers of power are often obscured from public sight, Bohemian Grove remains a tantalizing symbol of the secret gatherings that might just be shaping the world from the shadows. The Rothschild family's story stretches back to the 18th century, beginning in the dimly lit banking houses of Frankfurt, where Mayer Amschel Rothschild, a modest banker, laid the foundation of a dynasty that would eventually rise to unimaginable power and wealth. He was a man of vision, a shrewd dealer in finances who, through alliances with European nobility, gradually built a network so vast that it spanned the major capitals of Europe. By the time the 19th century had dawned, the Rothschild name was whispered in the halls of kings and princes. But with wealth came a reputation that would transform the family into something more than just financiers. Over time, their influence transcended economics and became the subject of endless speculation, their very name synonymous with shadowy power plays, secret control of governments, and clandestine manipulation of global events. The legend of the Rothschilds, particularly in the realm of conspiracy theories, is vast and all-encompassing. According to some, the family's wealth became a tool not just to dominate banking, but to control the world itself. It is said that the Rothschilds, over centuries, built an empire so impenetrable, so interconnected, that no major financial or political event occurs without their hand guiding it. From the Napoleonic Wars to the modern global economy, conspiracy theorists claim that the Rothschilds are always there, behind the scenes, ensuring that the world bends to their will. In their telling, the family's power is not bound by any borders, any governments, or any democratic systems. The Rothschilds, they say, are the true architects of the world order, operating from the shadows, quietly manipulating the levers of power. The rumors surrounding the Rothschilds are not just a product of their extraordinary wealth, but of their unusual business model. Mayer Rothschild, foreseeing the chaos of war and the instability of governments, strategically placed his 5 sons in the great financial capitals of Europe: London, Paris, Frankfurt, Vienna, and Naples. This vast network, unprecedented in its time, allowed the Rothschilds to control the flow of money across borders in a way that no other banking family could. They became indispensable to kings and governments, financing wars and peace treaties alike. But this power came with a price. As the family's wealth grew, so did the suspicions. Whispers began to circulate that the Rothschilds were not simply financiers, they were puppet masters, orchestrating wars for their own benefit, manipulating economies to strengthen their stranglehold on the world's wealth. Fiction often takes these tales and expands them into something almost mythological. In the darker corners of conspiracy, it is said that the Rothschilds fund both sides of every major conflict, ensuring that no matter the outcome, they always win. Napoleon's rise and fall, for instance, is said to have been orchestrated by the Rothschilds, who profited handsomely from financing his campaigns, then later his defeat. According to this narrative, the Rothschilds were not merely financiers, they were engineers of history, shaping events to suit their ambitions. Even the fall of empires is sometimes attributed to their behind-the-scenes machinations, their power transcending not just nations, but entire eras. One of the most enduring aspects of the Rothschild legend is their alleged control over the world's central banks. In the realm of conspiracy theories, it is often claimed that the Rothschilds own, or at least heavily influence, nearly all of the world's central banks. This, of course, would give them unparalleled control over global economies, interest rates, and the very nature of money itself. Some believe that the financial crises that have shaken the world in modern times, the Great Depression, the 2008 financial collapse, were not accidents of the market, but carefully engineered by the Rothschilds to consolidate their power further. By destabilizing economies, these theories suggest, the Rothschilds could buy up assets for pennies on the dollar and extend their influence over the world's financial systems even deeper. The Rothschilds' influence is not limited to banking in the eyes of conspiracy theorists. It extends into politics, media, and culture. Some say the family has quietly backed every major political movement of the past 2 centuries, ensuring that their interests are protected, no matter the ideology. From the establishment of Israel to the formation of the United Nations, the Rothschild name surfaces in speculative whispers. There are even those who believe the Rothschilds had a hand in both world wars, shaping the conflicts to bring about a new world order in which they could reign supreme. Their hands, some claim, are in every global institution, every international agreement, every trade deal and treaty. Behind every government, they say, stands a Rothschild. Perhaps the most fantastic of these stories involve the Rothschilds' supposed connection to secret societies. In the realms of fiction and conspiracy, the family is often portrayed as being intertwined with the Illuminati, the Freemasons, or other shadowy groups that allegedly control world affairs. The Rothschilds, in this telling, are not merely financiers but high priests of a global cabal, using their wealth and power to manipulate not just politics and economics, but the very fabric of society. Some go so far as to claim that the Rothschilds are part of a centuries-old plan to establish a new world order, a global government that would answer to no one but themselves, controlling every aspect of human life. To the outside world, the Rothschild family is largely a relic of a bygone era, an old European banking dynasty whose influence has waned in the modern age. Their wealth, while still substantial, is no longer the unparalleled force it once was. Yet the myths persist, growing ever more elaborate as time goes on. In the world of conspiracy, the Rothschilds are timeless, their power undiminished, their reach unlimited. They are the ultimate puppet masters, steering the course of human history from behind a velvet curtain. The allure of these stories lies in the mystery that surrounds the family. The Rothschilds, by their very nature, are private people. They do not flaunt their wealth or seek the limelight. Their businesses are discreet, their public appearances rare. The secrecy, whether intentional or not, only adds fuel to the fire of speculation. In the absence of clear information, the human imagination fills in the gaps, often with tales of dark conspiracies and hidden agendas. In the world of fiction, the Rothschild family becomes something more than just a wealthy European dynasty. They are transformed into a symbol of ultimate power that is both terrifying and fascinating. Whether they are portrayed as benevolent architects of order or malevolent rulers from the shadows, the Rothschilds in these stories embody the deepest fears and fantasies about wealth, control, and the nature of power itself. The reality of the Rothschilds may be far more mundane than these wild tales suggest. They are, after all, human beings, subject to the same limitations and challenges as anyone else. But in the world of conspiracy theories, the Rothschild family will always be larger than life, a dynasty whose true influence can only be guessed at, whose power is as mysterious as it is vast. And as long as there are questions about who really controls the world, the name Rothschild will continue to echo through the corridors of conspiracy, a reminder that the line between history and myth is often as thin as a whisper. In the dim recesses of secret gatherings and whispered conspiracies lies the myth of the Committee of 300, a shadowy collective said to wield unparalleled control over the world. The origins of this theory are as elusive as the committee itself, but it is often posited that the Committee of 300 is composed of the world's most elite individuals, drawn from ancient noble families, influential dynasties, and the highest echelons of power. According to the lore, this secretive group operates far beyond the reach of public scrutiny, orchestrating global events and manipulating the course of history from behind the scenes. Legend has it that the committee was born from a pact made centuries ago by a group of the world's most powerful families, each vying for dominance in a tumultuous era. The exact date and place of its founding remain shrouded in mystery, but some say it was established during the late 18th or early 19th century, a time when the world was rife with revolutions and shifting alliances. The committee's purported goal was not merely to amass wealth, but to create a global order where power was concentrated in the hands of a select few, in order that would remain hidden from the masses, but deeply influential. In the fictional world where the Committee of 300 exists, its members are the puppet masters of global politics and economics. They convene in luxurious, secretive locations, vast, opulent estates hidden away from prying eyes, or even clandestine meetings aboard private yachts drifting in international waters. These gatherings are attended by a mix of royalty, top industrialists, media moguls, and influential politicians. The committee's discussions are rumored to be of great consequence, shaping the destinies of nations and dictating the outcomes of major global events. The lore surrounding the Committee of 300 is replete with grandiose narratives of how it manipulates world events. Conspiracy theorists claim that every major war, economic collapse, and political upheaval is meticulously planned and orchestrated by the committee. They are said to be behind the scenes during financial crises, ensuring that their investments benefit while the average person suffers. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and other powerful families are often cited as key players in this secretive cabal, their wealth and influence allowing them to pull the strings of global finance with ease. In this fictional realm, the committee's influence extends into every aspect of human life. They supposedly control the world's major financial institutions, manipulating stock markets and currency values to consolidate their power. Governments are believed to be mere puppets, their policies and decisions heavily influenced by the hidden hand of the committee. The committee's reach is said to extend into media and culture as well, with the ability to shape public opinion and manipulate information to maintain their grip on power. The press, in this view, is nothing more than a tool to divert public attention from the true machination. One of the most enduring aspects of the Committee of 300's mythos is its supposed involvement in historical events. For example, some believe that the committee orchestrated the rise of major political figures, ensuring that leaders who would further their agenda were placed in positions of power. The French Revolution, the rise of the British Empire, the Cold War, these are all viewed through the lens of the committee's purported influence, with each event seen as a piece in a grand chess game played by the elite. In the fictional accounts, the committee's power is not just economic or political, but extends into the realm of science and technology. They are often depicted as suppressing innovations that could democratize power or disrupt their control, ensuring that breakthroughs in energy, communication, and other fields are either stifled or redirected to serve their interests. This aspect of their influence reflects the fear that the committee's control is so extensive that no field of human endeavor is left untouched by their manipulations. The most intriguing part of the myth is the secrecy surrounding the committee's members and operations. The identity of the 300, according to the lore, is known only to a select few within the highest echelons of society. Meetings are conducted in utmost secrecy, with members bound by oaths and codes that prevent them from disclosing any information. Those who have attempted to expose the committee are said to have faced dire consequences, from career ruin to mysterious disappearances. The very existence of the committee is portrayed as the ultimate conspiracy, a hidden reality that eludes even the most diligent investigators. In these tales, the Committee of 300 is portrayed not just as a group of wealthy elites, but as a near-mythical organization with an almost supernatural ability to influence global events. They are said to possess ancient knowledge and arcane wisdom, enabling them to foresee and manipulate future trends with uncanny precision. Their power is depicted as so absolute that they are able to weather crises and scandals that would topple lesser figures, emerging from each upheaval even stronger and more entrenched in their control. The fiction surrounding the Committee of 300 taps into a deep-seated fear of unseen powers controlling the world from the shadows. It reflects a pervasive sense of distrust in institutions and leaders, a belief that the real decision-makers are those who. The committee symbolizes the ultimate form of elitism and secrecy, a cabal whose influence is so profound that it is almost beyond comprehension. In reality, the Committee of 300 remains a concept rooted in conspiracy theories, with little concrete evidence to substantiate its claims. The family names and institutions associated with the myth are real, but the idea of a secretive global ruling body of exactly 300 members is more fiction than fact. Nonetheless, the narrative endures, resonating with those who see in it a reflection of their anxieties about power, secrecy, and the nature of control. As long as there are questions about who truly holds the reins of power and how global events are orchestrated, the legend of the Committee of 300 will continue to captivate and intrigue. It serves as a reminder that, in the realm of conspiracy, the line between reality and myth is often blurred, and the most compelling stories are those that tap into our deepest fears and suspicions about the world.